What do you want whitefellas to know about your history? The truth.
Our history didn't begin when white people got here. We were here thousands and thousands of years before they were, and it's not what's taught in textbooks.
There is a history, and for them to learn about it and to get to know what actually happened to our people, our old people, and that way they will get rid of their ignorance, particularly in mainstream organisations where you constantly, as a health worker, have to remind them and educate them, and it's very difficult to do that.
Just acknowledge that there were massacres, that there was genocide, that sovereignty was never ceded. It makes me really angry when people try to tell me, or I hear people talking to others around me saying that I don't exist, that my people don't exist, that Aboriginal people in Tasmania is not a thing. Well, it is a thing. We're very loud and proud.
I guess it makes me sad and frustrated. Like, I almost feel sorry for people who actually believe that.
That is true.
The truth. Massacres, cocktail parties that they used to have in the early 1800s, and the women stayed back and had dessert and done all the cleaning up while the men grabbed the guns and went out and had a little shot a few little black fellas. I think a lot of non-Aboriginal people need to know about those little stories. They need to know about the truth.
Because that's like just they genuinely don't know better.
It's
and
like
they weren't given the opportunity to know better in their school.
This isn't just a whole people not being educated. This is also a thing you can tell someone to their face, look at me, I'm an Aboriginal person speaking to you right now, and they'll still try and deny your existence. When you're so stuck in that little ball of ignorance and of racism, you just can't see outside of it.
You can't educate people that don't want to be educated. Right. And I think sometimes, why is it always left up to us as black fellas to educate the white people?
Do it from the start, put it in the schools. Right from the start, we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't have to defend ourselves against a heap of different age groups, because if you learn it from the start, it's not it's the norm, rather than getting to 20 years old. And I never learned about that in school, so that can't be true. All the years to follow, you're defending your Aboriginality and that the fact that you are still here sort of thing. And you're already on the back foot because you know what's coming, you know their questions and what they're going to ask. Yeah. And you're going to have to just defend yourself for that whole conversation pretty much.
That's another government thing. They said, well, Truganini and King Billy were the last two Aboriginal people.
They thought
that, but they're utterly wrong, aren't they? Utterly bloody wrong.
We're sitting here right
and
now.
We're still here and get in their faces more and more. Well, I reckon when they invaded Tasmania, they might have thought, well, we got rid of these buggers. We don't want to see any more of them.
And they thought to themselves, this is all our land now.
Yeah. But they got a bloody shock.
They still are. We are still fighting for land.
But we'll keep up the go as long as we're breathing. Best part about it, we're teaching it to other people that we're Aboriginal, so our culture and that to other people, so.
And a lot of Aboriginal people, they said that they were Maori because that was the only way. It was easier. It was the only way that you could survive in the society. I was adopted, so away from my family, and the matron of the hospital put on my paperwork about being Maori and Indonesian, because God forbid someone would want to adopt an Aboriginal child. Most cultures around the world haven't had to say that they are a different identity. Good or bad, they get to be who they are. Whereas Aboriginal people, I don't know about the mainland, but here in Tassie, they've had to play a part to survive.
Well, yeah, and I also think that history belongs to the person in the now. Like, I would like people to understand how bullied I was at school, how I was bashed up almost every night walking home from school, and that was our lot in those days. And they wonder why we are and who we are now. It's because of that discrimination that was afforded to us all when we were younger people. And now we're fighting back and saying no more.
When they say get over it, it's like, get over what? What I'm not entitled to as a human being? Get over it? How can I get over it?
It's not about getting over anything because it's long-term effects that actually carry down through generations. So you can't just get over something that has caused a long-term effect. People's personalities are even built through genetics. All that hurt, all that anger, all that loss, it does. It travels all the way down through the generation. You can't get over damage to your own inner being.
I'd also want them to know about what was life for my dad and my grand, and understand how close for them the discrimination and the intergenerational trauma is to me today and to my children. Because often I feel like people look at me and go, oh, well, you wouldn't be impacted by that. And I feel like those stories need to be shared to understand that my grandmother was affected by it, my dad was affected, and therefore it affects me and it impacts on the way that my beliefs and values are as well. So going into school, I'd be called horrendous names, you know, Boong and Coon and all these awful things because my dad was Aboriginal, but they wouldn't believe I was Aboriginal. That impacted on me with regards to my understanding of who I was. So I was in a conflict. At home, I was Aboriginal, but when I was at school, I wasn't.
Once I got into town, I could be with other Aboriginal people. I felt better than when I was at school because the school did nothing to make me feel that I was who I was. They was making me feel like a white person, and I wasn't.
A lot when it comes to our heritage, our culture, let them know that where we come from and what we still do today.
They talk about land rights and all that. Why do we want so much land? I said, well, it was ours before, they come and stole us off it. I said, but they said, oh, but you're getting land everywhere, but not exactly. The whole of the bloody island was ours. And I always tried to educate the educators to see that a history is still around. We still try to instill the history into them. Some people, 50 and 60 year school teachers, still don't know about the history, so it's never been taught. In the curriculum serves, they're starting to put it in there now.
We have our own cultural ways of going about things. We have our own law and we have our own way of life that has sustained us as a people for thousands upon thousands of years. And to listen to us when it comes to the issues that affect Australia.
3 seconds doesn't sound that much.
Not much of breakfast.
No, you can't have a cup of tea or nothing.
No.
Oh, you can.
Right.
Was that the last question?
That was.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a break.
It's a beautiful.
How was that?
That was amazing.
I was so hot. Did I look like I was hot?
No.